welcome to Legacy IAS. In today's video, we'll be looking and analyzing UPSC Mains Paper 1 question paper. Okay, in the first part of the video, we'll be mostly focusing on history and society part of the topics. In the later part of the video, another faculty will be dealing with geography. Alright, now without further ado, let's enter into the question papers. Alright. Now here we will be discussing a strategy on how the questions have been asked, which sections they have focused, what the questions are and how to approach it. Alright. Now generally if the history paper or the paper 1 part of history, whatever they ask comes from particular sections. Those are ancient history, medieval history, world history, modern history, post-independence and then art and culture. Okay. Now we'll see in which subsections or which sections of this UPSC is focused on in 2022. Alright. Now, art and culture. Now, the questions they have asked is, how will you explain that the medieval Indian temple sculptures represent the social life of those days? Okay. It's 150 words, 10 mark question. Alright. Now, look at the other questions also. As we go to the questions, we'll discuss each of the questions independently and individually. Alright. Now, modern history of 2 questions, both are 150 words. 10 mark questions. Alright. Next, post-independence pay, they have asked 1 question of 15 marks. Okay. Now, what is the marks distribution for this time, or which sections they have focused? As we discussed, art and culture pay, they have asked 3 questions ranging for 40 marks, which is they have asked 2 15 mark question and 1 10 mark question. Modern history pay, they have stuck to 2 questions and both of them are for 10 marks. Okay. Then comes your post-independence, they have asked 1 question, 15 marks. In total, yours is almost around the marks total is 75 marks. Your paper 1 is for 250 marks, 3 hours. The history section itself alone carries 75 marks. Understanding? We'll see how to approach each question. Alright? And what UPSC has asked and what the approach should be. Now the very first question. How will you explain that the medieval Indian temple sculpture represents social life of those days? As we see, 150 words, 10 mark question. Before we discuss any questions, one thing we will have to look at. What are they asking? What is UPSC is asking? And what are the keywords in the question? Why do we need keywords? Unless and until you know what they are asking, okay, any answer you provide will be invalid. Or it will not be up to the point. Okay. Now look at this. Look at the question. What are the keywords in this? Medieval Indian temple sculpture represent social life. The most important keyword here is sculpture. Why? Because see, we are hardwired in this way. Medieval Indian temple, our very next word will be architecture rather than sculpture. When we come to this part of the question, we assume it's architecture, or even if we know it's culture, our answer will somewhere lean around this architecture. But that is where the catch is, and that is where you have to utilize keywords in the question. That is when you will know that what you're supposed to write, what UPSC has asked. Okay, they've strictly asked about temple sculptures. Alright, sculptures are those figurines that are outside the temple. Yeah. Now they have asked about those and how it impacted the social life of that point of time. Okay. Now this is strict art and culture question. Alright, and in that specific about sculptures. Okay. Now we'll answer this question based on certain pictures. Okay. Here, look at this. Surasundari is the statue or a sculpture that we see in most of the temples. Alright, at that point of time. Now what does this mean? See, at that point of time, we are telling medieval society. Right? At this point of time, these sculptures can represent 2 things. One, what they can see physically. Okay. Second, what they can believe or they can imagine. Okay. Now let's say a woman. In their perception, how a woman looks. For example, Surasundari, look at the name. It means extremely beautiful one. Or this is how they personified or how an idealistically woman would be. Okay. In one version. These are the explanations given in one version of what Surasundari meant for them. They can have multiple versions. Okay. Majoritarily, it indicates their idealistic nature of thinking in this aspect rather than realistic. Okay. This is one way how the society at that point of time was thinking. Alright. Next. Look at this. See, you all know there is this concept called as Purusharthas. What are 4 Purusharthas? Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasi. Brahmacharya is your student life. Grihastha is your family man. Okay. Your Vanaprastha is a forest dweller. Sannyasin is one who leads a monk life. Okay. Basically, the cycle of life. Okay. Now here when we see concepts of Mithun, okay, when Mithun sculptures are there, those indicates your Grihastha or basically couple, indicating the 4 Purusharthas or their belief in the cycle, okay, cycle of life. Okay, these are certain examples. Next. Now when you see temples, they have large halls, okay. The large halls in the courtyard or in the temple, the Pradakshina Pada or any of those things, those could be for a dance, be a means or a way to impart education, okay, or their version of Veda Abhyas or delivering a spiritual lecture, okay. Basically those halls or assemblies, alright, the halls or assemblies were utilized for purposes which could be educational or recreational, indicating the society relied on both, okay. Now, this is your Vijay Vittalas temple sculpture, Jayanagar, music, show, dance, etc. Alright. And also one more things these temples will do, that is religious belief. For example, your Shiva, Parvati, okay, represents the union of male, female. Alright. All these aspects, the culture or the sculpture at that point of time. Look at this thing. The sculpture at that point of time represented the culture. Okay, the sculpture at that point of time represented the culture of that point of time. Understanding? Now, when we see these kind of things, there are, now for example, we have used the question as medieval, okay, which means it has already happened in a point of history. Now when we are in the contemporary world, 2022, okay, when we are now viewing or looking back at that moment, we will visualize some systems that existed then as social evils. One such thing is your Devdasi system, where small children are given or offered to temples, okay. They spend whole of their lives in being sacrificing to God and dance and music. Initially what started out like that started taking head in different forms, okay. Eventually it turned out to be a case which was a social evil, okay. This version, basically in this point of time, we see that the Devdasi systems were also there. This we can conjure from the sculptures, alright. So basically here with the sculptures we will be able to identify what kind of life they had, okay, what was their belief system or how did they use their lifestyle or their art, whatever was available to them, how did they use it and how were their lifestyle, okay. Let's move on to the next question. Why did the armies of British East India Company, mostly comprising of Indian soldiers, win consistently against the more numerous and better equipped armies of Indian rulers? Okay, let's look at what the keywords are, then we will find out what UPSC has asked. Keywords here being armies of British East India, mostly comprising of Indian soldiers, yeah, and Indian armies. Who will comprise of Indian soldiers only? So in a way, Indian army is fighting with Indian army at that point of time. Yeah. Now why did they do that? Alright. Now there were multiple wars that were fought between British and our India in the form of Mysore War, Maratha War, okay, your Anglo-Sikh War, right? War with the Mughals, war with the Nizams, okay, you name it, they would have fought it. Okay. Each point of time they kept fighting. One particular war I want you to look at, that is your Battle of Plassey, 1757. Okay, the very first war, okay, where they won over the right of 24 paraganas, that is, they tasted economic success. Once they got that, it will be difficult for them to leave it, alright. Then continued with Battle of Buxar, 1764, alright. Here Bengal, entire Bengal fell into their hands. Thus they created something called as the war systems, the dual government in 1765. One of the aspects of dual government is that the king can keep the administrative powers. Basically, he is a person who has responsibility but without power. Whereas the British East India Company was to have power without responsibility. One such aspect for him, for the king, being that the security purpose or the army, okay, that could not be as free as he had availed as a sovereign, as a free person. Okay. Now the security, by here we mean army. Okay. Now when British took over Bengal, it also meant its army. Now the members of army have two choices: leave the occupation which they're doing, or join the British. Okay. Now if they leave the occupation that they are having, what other option do they have? Going back to agriculture, the agriculture is already stressed enough. Yes, so they will join the British Army. Now, in the British Army, there were some perks in the form of regular payment of salary, bata, foreign allowance. Okay, now the army here, was well trained, well equipped, well disciplined. Okay, they made sure, when we use this word disciplined, it was in all aspects. They were paid on time. Okay, that were not the scenario very much seen in Indian case. Okay, it's not that every single person didn't pay on time, and there have been instances where we have largely seen that even the regular payment of army or maintenance of a standing army itself became difficult. So one of the reasons we see that there were mostly Indian soldiers in the British Indian Army is that one of that reason is these things. Okay, they had no other choice. They got a better source of income. Okay, they received it on time. All those aspects. Okay, look at the thing. Wars, better tactics and strategy. And so, for example, subsidy alliance. Yeah, doctrine of lapse. Okay, ring fence policy. Okay, all these policies, they utilized it and made sure it will benefit one and only one EIC, and thus the British. Self-serving interests. Any of the tactics or strategies that they used are all self-serving interests. Okay. Now, they had a strong financial backup. One, it was a private company who was also supported by government. Okay, so they had the support from both sides, in which both sides the economy grew. It got drained from India. Superior arms and ammunitions. Yeah, in fighting. Now, see, this is one thing when we say in fighting. This is a common feature we see in Indian scenario. See, in the southern part of India, northern part we had Mughal India, but in the southern part we had stronger units, but they were trying to be independence units. Maratha, Mysore, Nizam, all three kept fighting among themselves by siding with the British at different point of time. Yeah, rather than giving collective resistance to the British, they aligned themselves with the British to fight amongst themselves. All these weakened the administration, all this weakened the authority, all this thus weakened the Indian rulers and thus triumphed the British people or the British East India Company. Time being. Okay. Quality leadership, it was offered by very able Governor Generals Robert Clive, okay, Warren Hastings, Wellesley, etc. Process of selection of officers. Alright, now be it for administrative purposes or civilian purposes, they chose officers based on the rank, based on the education, or based on other factors rather than something called as caste, creed, sex, religion. Okay, none of those. That was one advantage. Okay, British had over Indian rulers, where we at point of time were choosing people based on Varna system largely. Yes, we had this, but then by this point of time Varna system had transformed itself into a different head, but even then the structure of this, okay, in different fragments we had to keep using it at that point of time in the society. The hiring of martial classes, British started using. Okay, post your 1857, you can observe this on a very large scale. Okay, martial classes. Alright, your Sikhs, Gurkhas, etc. Okay, they thought that this section over the other section was a martial. In their this air quote we could use it because they used it 1857. Basically, they took this because whoever were able to suppress the revolt of 1857 Sepoy Mutiny, they took them under the name of martial classes, which again bolstered, okay, the importance of British and their self-serving interests. Alright, let's move on to the next question. Why was there a sudden spurt in famines in colonial India since the mid 18th century? Give reasons. Okay, 150 words. It's a 10-mark question. What are the keywords in this question? Sudden spurt, famines, colonial India, mid 18th century. That is 1757 onwards. Why is there so much increase in famines? See, your 1757, one significant event happens, Battle of Plassey. Yes, post this one-on-one, Battle of Plassey, the very first thing, 24 Paraganas, whatever fell into their hands. Okay, 1947, the entire India was in their hands. What started as 24 Paraganas led up to entire India by the time of their exit, 1947. Okay. Now, amidst this condition, they will see one thing. British wanted to see one thing. Okay, increase in their economy. Okay, they strictly maintained that. Which means any policies that was to come to India from them was all one way. Was all self-serving. Okay. Now, recurring famines or sudden spurt. Okay, eventually famines will keep on happening over place and time. But consistently, if it is happening, what is the reason? In this point of time, your mid 18th century, okay, we saw suddenly over the point of time famines keeping on happening. Why? Because these famines, okay, were not just natural, okay, they were not just natural occurrence, but they were also man-made famines, that is artificially created. Okay, they utilize the resources. Okay, whatever resources, for example, let's say this is a region of Bengal, whatever resources were to be available here, they diverted it to some other place, some other war zone place where they were fighting. Okay, so here the resources are created. Okay, whatever resources are created, those are being depleted or not being made available to the common folks is because they are diverted, thus creating a man-made famine or an artificial famine. The worst affected of them was Bengal, which saw frequent occurrence of both natural and man-made famines, and this spread throughout India. Initially, what started out in Bengal spread to throughout India. One comforting fact is that post 1947, India hasn't witnessed that much of famines. Okay. Now, see, what are the famines that were there? Great Bengal famine of 1770, Deccan famine of 1830, Agra famine of 1837-38, etc. Right? Famines kept on occurring. Alright. What was the reasons? One is, it's a man-made famine. One more thing, rain-fed agriculture. They mostly relied initially on the land tax. The next, it was based on the produce. Then it was only on commercial crops. They relied on the land so much, but they never did anything to improve the land. Okay, the agriculture was only dependent on rain. Okay, any other source. Okay, or the agriculture was mainly monsoon dependent or rainfall dependent. Okay, they did not have any alternate sources. Okay, they did not have other alternate sources in the form of dams or all your forms of. They did not have alternate ways for irrigation. Okay, the British did not bother themselves with this. Okay, so the agriculture suffered a lot because it was explicitly relying only on the monsoon or the rainfall. Okay, lack of institutional development. There was no such. Now we said the entire Europe, okay, was built on Renaissance, was built on Industrial Revolution, but no such thing they made it in India. They prided themselves on being scientific, but none of those they brought it to India. Okay, even when it was bought in the later stages, they were very few in number, and only if it served the interest of British. Okay, lack of diversity in employment. Okay, see, after Industrial Revolution, okay, in Europe itself, there was a loss of jobs, but an alternative job was created. Okay, that was what one thing Industrial Revolution created for them. But the same was not there for India. Our artisanal sector completely depleted. Okay, we didn't have royal patronage, we didn't have people who was demanding this, all these things, etc. When their opportunities were taken off, they had no other source of employment other than going back to agriculture, which is already having enough problems. Okay, now that they did not create. Okay, role of railways played a very important role in India. Okay, most importantly it served the interests of British very well. Okay, that is the reason they wanted to introduce railway, and for that matter your telegraph, okay, communication lines, all this did have an impact. The British didn't have any gains in that. The British didn't bother to bring it. They were not bothered about betterment of India rather than bothered about betterment of EIC and thus British. Okay, destruction of rural economy. Complete rural economy was destroyed with their free one-way trade. Right? India became an exporter of raw materials, importer of finished British goods. Remember the words, finished British goods. Okay, commercialization of agriculture. Okay, all of their indigo, the commercial crops, cash crops, whatever served their market, they made us grow. Thus we became the colony, they became the colonizer. Alright, colonial plunder, drain of wealth, monopoly of profits. Yes, all of this is the scenario that we have seen in the colonial era. That is why, see, as the name itself, it shouldn't come as a surprise of this question. It's pretty direct. Colonial people, what do you think will be their interest? Not betterment of someone's country or a colony. It is only that they are focused about increasing their economy. Okay. If you ask me, this question is pretty much straightforward. Alright, let's move to the next question. The political and administrative reorganization of states and territories has been a continuous ongoing process since mid-19th century. Discuss with example. Alright, what are the keywords here? Political and administrative reorganization of states and territories has been a continuous ongoing process since the mid-19th century, post year 1857. See, look at the word keyword here, ongoing, which means till now. Okay, which means we can differentiate the scenario of India as pre-1947 or before freedom, post-1947 after the freedom. Okay, reorganization of states has been going on still recently. The Jammu and Kashmir state reorganization we did up until there, right? See, if I was to 1757 to 1857, okay, your EIC ruled. Yeah, 1857 onwards, where your crown rule took over. Okay, 1857 to 1947, the reorganization was based to suit British interests. Yeah. Now here by British interests we mean, for example, Bengal. 1905, Bengal got partitioned. Why? Because it wasn't serving British purpose. Nationalism was growing. It became a nerve center of nationalism that had to be cut. So they partitioned it. Thus began the first state of reorganization. Yes, each of the states they kept partitioning. Each of the states they thought administrative purposes very difficult for them, or their nationalistic struggle there of Indians has become more. Any reasons, be it social or security, they started severing the states or they started creating new states based on the interests of British. Okay. Post 1947, it is on different purpose. For example, linguistic. Yeah. Linguistic, administrative. All these things, the reorganization has been going on. Okay. So here you have to view the question as something pre-1947. See, look at the timeline also they're given. Mid-19th century, 1857 to 1947, 1947 to 2022. That is the question they have asked. You have to address both the points of that. Alright. See, now look at here. Political conquest, okay, of the British started with the reorganization of India from Paraganas. Your Battle of Plassey, 1757, okay, whatever they gained, came to presidencies, your Bengal, Bombay, Madras, alright. Along with that presidencies, it came to British India. Okay, there was also this other point of states such as Part A, B, C, D states, Chief Commissioner states. Okay, anything they could group under which had immense benefit for them, they did it. Right? See, Part A, B, C, D states, Chief Commissioner provinces, all these things. Okay, basically now with these kind of changes, be it for political purpose or administrative purposes as they claim. There are then instances it is made for administrative purpose also, but at least that is what they claim. Okay. Now they brought a large amount of changes. Okay. Changes in the Indian society of fabric. Indian society had a different fabric, but when the British started knitting, they started putting different designs on it. Okay. That created a different society. Okay. That society which was again suited for Indian interests by our Indian nationalists lead to our present day India. Alright. Now, post independence, that is post 1947, when we inherited our entirety of something called as India. Okay, we had more than 500 disjointed princely states. Okay, we had these things called part A, B, C, D states. We had chief commissioner provinces. Then we had a section of people fighting for linguistic states. Yes, thus we start with State Reorganization Act. We have to come in with the 7th Constitutional Amendment Act. Alright, based on linguistic, and from there whatever pursued it went on up till our recent latest Jammu and Kashmir reorganization. Alright, I hope this question is clear as to what you should be answering. Okay, we're giving an overview of as to what they are asking, what you should be answering. Alright, let's look at the next question. Discuss the main contributions of the Gupta period and Chola period to the Indian heritage and culture. What is UPSC asking here? Contributions of Gupta and Chola period. Now you all know Gupta is the golden age, right? When you say Chola, you will automatically go to temple, literature. Yes, now those you have to explain. It's a pretty self-explanatory question. There's not nothing much of a very analytical topic. Okay, your Gupta, see the timeline is between 4th century to 6th century. Okay, all your art, architecture, alright, it all reached zenith at the period of Guptan time. Okay, as we say, the golden age of India. Okay, now here we have paintings, architecture, art, all of different aspects. All could be one explicitly exemplary or poor. At of time we say that our, okay, our art, culture, everything was at zenith. Okay, we see the temple style of architecture also, your Nagara and Dravida. Okay, they were evolved in this period. Alright, Sanskrit language. Alright, evolution of script. Okay, basically we had Brahmi script, right? That started from this phase. It evolved from Nagari script to Brahmi script. Okay, now this was a period of 9 gems, or whatever we say, all the stories of that most important scholars, court poets. You can mention the name of few of them. You can mention the works of them. Okay, indicating the richness in literature. The Guptan period also saw a period of scientific growth in the field of mathematics, astronomy, astrology. We have different scholars, different poets who have produced huge number of works. You could give their names and the examples if you remember. That is a good added advantage. Okay. Then with coinage, you all know that Guptans issued the largest number of gold coins in India. Okay. And then metallurgy, the example is your iron pillar, which is still rust free. Okay, that is one example. Next, your Chola period is again, as it is very much known, temples. All your temple architecture, examples of that, how it has progressed, all those you can write about. The sculptures of the temple architecture utilize the answer from your first question that we discussed. Okay, sculptures. Okay, here the music, the literature, the dance forms, everything underwent change. Okay, everything grew very well and added to the Indian culture. Okay, Indian subcontinent itself became more rich, okay, more diverse in this period of Chola and Gupta. Alright, going on to next question. Discuss the significance of lion and bull figures in Indian mythology, art and architecture. 250 words, 15 mark question. What are the keywords here? Lion and bull figures in Indian. Most important thing, mythology, they have asked. See, when they've asked mythology, you have to make sure you specify, you have to underline this, you have to make sure you address this part. Okay, because they've asked mythology, what do you mean by mythology or myth? Something that you don't know for sure it existed or not, but you've heard it was there like that. Be it in Ramayana or Mahabharata or any other scriptures or works, okay, we have heard things were like this. We have heard they fought wars like this. Okay, we have heard that things were conducted in a particular way. Their society was in a certain way. All this we have heard. The hearsay so. Okay, you don't have exact proof to tell this is what happened, but it is moved on from generations onwards. So the mythical part, the mythology part, you have to address in lion and bull figurines. How is it? See, now bull, when you say, okay, this has been there since your Indus Valley civilization, for whatever records we have. Now initially the first part we are discussing on the things that we have, the records we have for sure now that, okay, from IVC, Indus Valley Civilization onwards till today, 2022, bull is considered very sacred, symbolic and a thing of respect, an animal which has to be respected, right? Now, when it comes to mythology, okay, when it comes to mythology, it is a symbol of fertility, strength. Your Lord Shiva, okay, this particular animal is associated with Lord Shiva, okay. See here, it's called Nandikeshwara or Nandideva. So even today in Indian temples, or if you visit a Lord Shiva temple, if this is the main deity, opposite to that you find a bull figurine, okay, indicating the importance of the bull in Indian mythology. That portion of the question they have asked. See, mythology, right? Nandikeshwara or Nandideva. Okay. Now, bull, when you say, it is important on all aspects. It is important in Hinduism. It has been important in Buddhism. It's important in Jainism. In general, if you take animals, trees, or grooves, or those are all been important in majority of the religions. Okay, etc. Other religions too. Even today we have conservation of species, conservation of animals, okay. We give them a very religious, okay, aspect, or we give them a silver lining of being very spiritualistic, alright. Amongst all that, basically animals and plants, okay, have had very important, have held important positions in our religious perspective also, be it our mythology, be it our art, or be it our architecture, okay. Now the bull is the symbolism of first Jaina Tirthankara, Adinatha. Buddhism, bull is related to Janma or birth. Okay. Significance of bull in Indian art and architecture. Second part of the question. Bull is seen, we have at least allegedly thinking that that is the symbol of a bull. Okay. That is there in the Bhimbetka caves. Okay. Several of your coins, seals, emblems, all of those have bull. Yes. And then one thing of feature of Gavaksha, which means bull's eye or cow's eye, right, which is found in your caves. Bull has held extreme important positions. You will be witnessing this thing where bulls will be covered with decorative shawls and they'll be paraded. People will go pray for it. Yeah. Even today the tradition is followed in many parts of India. Okay. Now see second part, significance of lion in mythology, art and architecture. You have to address for both bull and lion in all these three aspects. Okay. Now lion is considered as Narasimha, okay, who is an avatara of Lord Vishnu, which means this is a deity which has lion as its face and a human body. That is Lord Narasimha. Okay. Lion's importance in Buddhism symbolizes bodhisattvas. Yali is nothing but a Hindu mythological creature. Okay, you would have observed this in multiple temples if you have seen. It is a lion's body, okay, and a lion's face. This will be sculpture. This will be seen as a sculpture in many of the Hindu deity temples. Okay. Now, lion is again considered as a Vahana of Durga. Okay, goddess Durga is having. Okay. Now in art and architecture, we know how important lion is. All our emblems, all our paintings. Okay, majority of those are dominated with lion. You can mention the examples of those things and the contemporary things as how lion is associated with the Indian environment also in our emblems. Okay, we'll move on to the next question. Now we've come to the section of Indian society. Totally this time 2022 pe they've asked 5 questions. Alright. They've asked 3 10-mark question and 2 15-marks question. Okay. We'll look into what are those. First thing, explore and evaluate the impact of work from home on family relationships. The question which was bound to be expected. Work from home culture gained extreme eminence and importance during the time of the pandemic or COVID-19, okay, where everyone had to do work from home because of lockdowns and stuff. So, okay, this had both pros and cons. What are the keywords here? Pretty simple. Impact of work from home culture. Here by impact we mean both pro as well as con. Okay, you're supposed to give pro as well as both con, positive as well as negatives. Okay. See, proper adaptive process. People had to adjust to the fact, okay, their routine had changed, okay. Every morning they don't have to get up hurriedly and run. Now they had the liberty to wake up calmly, okay, they didn't have to commute, okay, they didn't have to worry about the mode of commute or traffic, alright. They could just relaxedly start working because that is work from home, as the name states, okay. This change, this took an adaptive change, okay, this people had to get adapted to it. Okay. Now this meant work from home, the name itself, which means spend more time with family. Okay, not on large cases. Demographic differences, yes, the old people, the young people, the middle-aged people, everyone could get an ambit to be in one place, visualize each other's work, see what the other person is going through, which gave us some sense of understanding, empathy, all of those things to us to an extent was visualized in this point of time, it could be told. Okay. Now greater flexibility in schedule, okay, which meant that they had time to do much more things. One such culture that arose was your game culture. Families together would come and play a game, okay, which in turn, game playing is not such a big thing, but it became a big thing at that point of time. Why? Because they could all come together, they had more time to spend and then play together, eat together, alright, be together, work together. That created a culture of home or family. A lot of the time got spent here. Okay, your work, your personal and professional almost got an amalgamation here. Okay. Okay. Spend less money outside, indicating that they couldn't party anymore, they couldn't go outside anymore. That was both pro and con, but still the amount of money spent on those kind of things reduced. Flexibility in living locations, for example, if people, okay, Bangalore is an IT hub, which means people throughout India will come here, stay here, work here, but now they could go back to their place, they could work from there. Yeah. Now, as we saw, there were positives, there are also negatives. What are those? Interference of work life with private life. Constantly, it seemed like people were working even when people are there in the homes. Alright. And this also had a situation of more of domestic abuse. We have seen scenarios of this getting more and more. Okay, your mental illness, being in home, not being able to socialize, not being able to communicate, physical communications, all these things affected. Okay, all these things affected the whole point of social or society, right? All this got affected to a very large scale. Okay, created mental health issues. Now look at the answer here. May, this you cannot write lost the creative spark. That is not the scenario. You just in scenarios or questions like this use a safer word. Okay, may lose the creative spark than speed. Okay, basically you can give a drastic amount of examples. These are just a few examples for you to relate as to how to approach the questions. You can give a wide and vast range of answers. Alright, we'll move on to next question. How is the growth of Tier 2 cities related to rise of a new middle class with an emphasis on the culture of consumption? Okay, what are the keywords here? Growth of Tier 2 cities, new middle class, culture of consumption. See, now we know Tier 1 cities, your Bangalore, Mumbai, Madras, or basically Chennai, right? Kolkata, Delhi, etc. Right? All these cities are Tier 1 cities, which means they are overpopulated, right? People are always migrating to these cities to look for work, which means the place is overburdened. Okay, whatever the opportunities that they are able to get also is now having extreme competition. Okay, basically, it is just overcrowded in all aspects. Now, if it is overcrowded, which means the firms also have to fight among themselves, which means there'll be increased. A lot of people are living there, a lot of expenses for firms also, for people also. The firms are now trying to move to places which are giving them a better or cheaper alternatives. Okay, when they move there, okay, when they open their operations there, which means the employment opportunity will increase. If employment opportunity increases, all the other surrounding factors with it also will increase. Thus begins your tier 2 cities. Okay, example is Jaipur, right? Now all the cities or the states are now trying to come up with capital number 2 to provide them a cheaper alternative so that that place also will grow better. Okay, and not focus on only one capital. Okay, now they try to create two capital kind of things. Why? Because they can have advantage of what tier 1 is coming to tier 2, which means tier 2 will grow, which means employment opportunities here will grow, right? The city's economy will grow, the country's economy will grow in turn, right? Employment will grow, or human development will grow, right? Growth will be seen in all sectors, and thus culture of consumption will grow, indicating the firms again at the end they will also grow. Yeah. Now the LPG era, liberalization, privatization, globalization, this created one section, entrepreneurs or entrepreneurial growth, okay, that saw a huge impetus, that gains huge impetus, okay, which indicating a large number of startups, yeah, indicating that large number of people will get opportunities, employment, right? More and more people will try to come under the ambit of formal sector, which means the country will move towards a formal sector, yes, which will booster and bolster the importance and growth of economy or the formal sector in Indian society. Alright, rise in service sector indicating rise in GDP. With this again the service sector will grow more and more. Right, digital revolution, we are like constantly witnessing the digital revolution, increased incomes, westernization of habits under globalization, all your fast foods, brands, clothing, etc. Everyone will want to indulge. Yes, if you start making more money, you will obviously want to indulge, spending will increase. Yes, along with that, coupled with them is the government schemes, Make in India, Stand Up India, Startup India, okay, all these other schemes, and there is a risal of something called new middle class. With that, okay, this concept will grow with tier 2 cities. So you can synonymously use new middle class with tier 2 cities. Alright, attractive options for larger firms, it will be an advantage. It's a win-win situation for both the firms as well as us, as well as the us by we mean the common people. Alright. Now the economic growth rate will increase. Yeah, all the associated growth. Again, see, with anything there is associated pro and con. In here you mention pro because mostly pro, not you don't mention any negatives at all. Okay, but here they have told the growth of tier 2 cities, related rise of middle class, emphasis on culture of consumption. Here with the emphasis on culture of consumption, in this phase you can add both negatives as well as positives. But the question largely remains on the positive note. Okay, all the associated growth factors, in turn growth is observed. Okay, we'll move on to the next question. Given the diversities among the tribal communities in India, in which specific context should they be considered as a single category? Right? What is the keywords here? Specific context, diversity. That is basically we see tribals of India as two things. One, we are differentiating tribals from your majority people. Okay, two tribals. Here we combining all tribals into one. Okay, now within tribals itself we see distinguishing factors. Okay, that's what the question is asked. We have seen diversities here. Tribe 1, tribe 2. Like that we have n number of tribes, right? Irrespective of the fact that they have these differences, okay, in what context should they be considered all under one category, tribals? Okay. Now here, what is the diversity among them? The geographical distribution, language diversity, pattern of worship, distinct way of living. Basically, every tribe has its own distinct features. Each tribe has its own way of praying, has its own way of eating, has its own way of living life, has its own way of what is life, right? Each tribe has its different thing. Each tribe is concentrated in a different region. Okay, that is why we cannot just club them all under one thing. But even though they are so many diverse in number, so much diverse in their living, so much diverse in their belief system, alright, under what concept do they all come under one umbrella? If you have to keep an umbrella for all of them, what is that? Okay, that's the question. Okay, what is the single category will play? Worship of a common ancestors. Okay, this is one feature that, okay, brings all the tribals together. Alright. Now they are mostly nature worshippers, animal worshippers, sacred gurus, trees, okay, or whatever here we have used, common ancestor. They all, if we say tribals, they rely on the worship of a common ancestor. Okay. Next, inanimity with nature. They are one with nature, as we say. They pray nature. Okay. And one thing is, tribals have assimilated themselves with nature. Okay, they are one with nature. Okay, they live. Okay, they continue to live harmoniously with nature. Alright. Next, the belief in magic. Now, here a magic, the word is not your contemporary version of magic or Hogwarts version of magic. Here, magic for them is a belief system. Okay, the belief system of tribals is what we are using the word magic. Simplicity and self-sufficiency, yeah, that is what separates us from tribals. We claim that we need simple, we claim that we have to be self-sufficient, but are we actually? They are actually. Alright. Difference from mainstream society, yes, tribals, as we said, they can be differentiated as common people and tribals put under one category. So basically your question, okay, has to be addressed in both this way, between common people and tribals, and tribes themselves under the subheadings of what is the diversity among them as multiple tribes and as a single category. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Analyze the salience of sect in Indian society vis-a-vis caste, region and religion. What do you mean by sect? For example, Hinduism is a religion. In Hinduism itself, we have multiple gods, we have multiple faiths. Okay, we believe, for example, anyone who believes and worships Vishnu, Vaishnavism. Anyone who believes and worships Shiva, Shaivism. Alright, there are multiple and n number of belief factors. Okay, India as a society believes in a lot of things. We have a large number of faith. When I say large number of faith, numerically also I mean, metaphorically also I mean. Our faith system or belief system, okay, is pretty large. Why? Because India is a land of honey, milk, mixtures. Okay, when it is such a huge mixture, okay, it's a heterogeneous mixture creating a homogeneous world. A heterogeneous coming together to form a homogeneous world is the uniqueness that India has. Okay, we have the concept of sect. Sect is nothing but differences. Okay, Hinduism is a religion, but in the same religion we have multiple differences. Okay, same is with Islam, same is with Christianity. Okay, multiple things, Jainism, Buddhism, you name it, there is different sects in it. Why? Because there is different faith, there is different belief system. Alright. For example, in Islam, we didn't accept music, we say. Now Sufism accepted it. Yes, different sect. Alright. Nothing but a social institution. Nothing but a belief system. Alright. Your answer has to portray different examples in each of this and how they are different, and yet how are they coming under one ambit. Be it Hinduism or be it your Vaishnavism or Shaivism, they all come under the ambit of Hinduism. respect to caste and sect. Okay, we are seeing the sect, basically differences with respect to caste. We are seeing the differences with respect to region, and then with religion. Okay, accommodation of diversity. If any place is more diverse than anyone else, that is India. We have multiple gods, we have multiple languages, we have multiple literatures, we have multiple belief systems, but still all of them exist. Okay, to a large extent, peacefully coexist, thus creating India to be the most diverse country. Alright, emergence of new traits, new sects. Alright, as we said, Vaishnavism, Vishnu, Shaivism, Shiva, all under Hindus. Yes. Multi-sect Indian society. Look at this word, that is what we are. Multiple sects come together to form India or the Indian society. Now what is the sect again? Differences. Okay. Then with respect to region and sect, adaptation is one thing that India has always been. Okay. It has taken us time and again to come to a particular place, but we have always adapted. Okay, our version, okay, but we have always adopted. Okay, that is why India still continues and sustains to be India. And even though we are striving towards new India, okay, we are carrying our legacy with us. We are carrying our diversity with us. Okay, we are carrying our culture with us. Okay, this is legacy's legacy. Alright. The caste group has similar customs, belief, rituals. Yes, we have multiple caste systems or jati systems, or okay, any names you want to call it. But what are those? They have similar belief systems. Yes, all the reservations, non-reservations, the fight is for particular caste should be included, particular caste should not be included. What are those castes? Nothing but people, a common group of people who believe in the same thing. Yes, India holds good for all of them, holds true for all of them. Alright, let's move on to next question. Are tolerance, assimilation, pluralism the key elements of making Indian form of secularism? See, what are the keywords in this? Indian form of secularism, keywords tolerance, assimilation, pluralism. Okay, it's a pretty straightforward question. First, you begin your question by addressing what secularism is and what is Indian form of secularism, and then you associate how in the Indian secularism we have tolerance, assimilation, and pluralism. Okay, pretty straightforward question. What is Indian secularism? In our version of secularism, we hold that all religions are equal. Okay, we don't tell some religion is good, some religion is bad. We are upholding, okay, India is a state. Okay, we do not have a state religion. Okay, even though majority is the Hindu population residing in India, but still we do not have a state religion largely, officially or constitution granted. Alright, we do not have a state religion, indicating that we treat all religions in a equal footing. Okay, in that perspective, our secularism is different from the secularism itself in term. Okay, whatever secularism means, that is different from Indianized version of secularism based on this front. Okay, look at this thing. Sarva Dharma Samabhav. We will treat all religions equally. Okay, that is the ground root of India's culture, tradition. Now, secularism, when we speak about Indian secularism, we have to specifically mention our constitutional provisions of secularism, that being given in our Article 26, Article 25, Article 14, Article 15, 29, 30. It's okay if you don't remember explicitly what are those, but the mentioning of those, okay, gives you an edge as to constitutionally provided, that is, people or religion or the aspects. Look at the word tolerance, assimilation, pluralism. What is pluralism? As the name states, plural, multiple, and we kept speaking in the previous answer, right? India is a land of diversity, right? When it is all coming together, when a heterogeneous section of people are coming together to create a homogeneous country, that will be India. And for India to sustain that way and to continue that way, we have to make sure no one person, okay, no one person will take off these things, or no one political party, or no one extremist groups, or whatever it is, okay, no one person can take away the rights of any people or any section. That is why we have to make sure constitutional provisions are present. Alright. Move on to the next question. Elucidate the relationship between globalization and new technology in a world of scarce resources with special reference to India. What are the keywords here? Relationship between globalization, new technology and scarce of resources. See, now when we say globalization, we are constantly moving forward. Okay, we are advancing forward, right? To LPG, whatever we saw in one of the question, 1990s reforms, yes, all of those. We saw entrepreneurial activity, yes, with all the things, okay? Globalization, when we say the world is getting more and more connected. Any small thing, any place it happens, it is seen and visualized in the other part of the world. Okay, more and more connectivity is there, more and more advancements are there, more and more digital advancements are there. Okay, your new factors such as artificial intelligence is coming into play. Okay, with this, okay, new technologies are coming in day by day. Okay, but one thing is that we have a scarcity of resources. How is India, specific reference to India, how is India or the world at large is going to handle with this? That is the question. Now, when we say new technology is coming in globalization and scarce resources, the technologies that are coming now are so unique and more adaptable such that they are trying to make the best out of the scarce resources, or trying to reuse, recycle and reduce. Okay? Basically, there are technologies that are coming only to make sure that we are able to do these. Those are the positives. Alright? Yes, there are negatives too. We are having scarcity of resources. We are tackling that in a different manner. But one good thing is we are trying to tackle. We are getting technologies which we are trying to tackle the issues. Okay? That becomes very eminent here. Alright? Your focus should be both on the positives and negatives. Okay, yes, what are, now we spoke about positive, what are the negatives or the cons? See, now as and when we said new technology is coming, okay, which means the importance is given more to the skill and the skilled force. Okay, skill and skilled workforce. Under this normal human population or your majority Indian population, now when you say, now if you give them the skill, they become the skilled force. So if you don't give them the skill, they will not become the skilled force, then they will not be effectively able to be utilized their potential workforce. Potential employment cannot be generated. What is potential? Something which has bright future ahead. If we are not giving them the future itself, if we are not paving the future itself for them, how will it be bright? Right? Simple terms. If you provide them with the skill, they will become a skilled workforce, and then the new technology will be viable to us in Indian scenario. If you don't give them the necessary scenario, this is one such example. How will the new technology be beneficial to us in the long run? If the world is moving more towards this, we have to get ourselves in this. Okay, for this to happen, we need a lot of underlying structure, underlying changes to take place. Okay, that's what your answer here keyword states. Globalization 4.0, that is a new version of globalization with your artificial intelligence, resource recycling, yes, technological progress. With India, we have a dual challenge. This is specific to India, that is your demographic dividend and rapid technological change. Along with the rapid technological change, our human development also should change. Okay, our medical access, educational access, all of those should also change along with the changing society, changing globalization. Alright, higher premium on skills may generate more inequality. The more skilled gets more money. The one who, for example, doing physical labor, okay, toiling himself 16 hours a day, he might make way less money enough to even compare. This creates a huge amount of inequality. Okay. Now with us, one unique thing, it's not a unique thing, one very strategic thing that we are addressing and facing is the climate change. any of our technologies, our globalization, our improvement should all be based on sustenance of climate change, sustenance of reducing climate change. Okay, just so that our future generations can have a place to call Earth where they can have a bright future, like we said here. Be it skill or climate or the world or the Earth, we have to use it in a sustainable and judiciary manner. Okay, just so that they can have a safe and secure place where they can nurture, where they can have a place to have a bright world ahead. Okay, along with that, any of the technological changes or the globalization, when the world is getting more connected, we had to face lockdowns, which means we had to close our borders. Yes, which means we had to become more and more closed in the form of pandemic, financial crisis, security issues, terrorism. Amidst all these things, okay, amidst all the things which are interlinked and interconnected, how should the new technology, globalization, and scarce resource, a trifacta, be curbed, and how it has to be addressed with special reference to India is how the question has to be addressed. Okay, I hope you have understood the questions up until now, how to deal with it. Alright, thank you very much.
Hello students, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. Today we are going to discuss about the UPSC Mains General Studies 1 and that particular paper that has been held very recently for this particular year. In this particular video, we are going to discuss in detail the question and what is the proper structure for the questions asked from the geography subject, as well as what should be the main content of the answer and how you should conclude the particular answers for each of the individual questions. So first, starting with overall, if we try to understand, the total number of questions that has been asked directly from geography subject is around 8. And overall, if you look at this, we have both the question from 10 marks as well as question from 15 marks that has been asked in this particular examination. Overall, if you look at the nature of question, some of the questions has been direct that could have been solved if you have the brief understanding or basic understanding of the concept. If you studied NCERT's class 11 and 12 well, and also some of the questions are very dynamic in nature, current affairs oriented, and if you have been following newspapers and the current affairs compilations, then obviously it will be much easier for you to answer such kind of questions. So let us start and try to understand the each of the questions in detail. So first question, that was question number 4, that was of 10 mark, and as you know that 10 mark questions are to be answered within a word limit of 150 words. So this question basically is a straightforward question that could have easily been solved by studying NCERTs. So the question is that to describe the characteristics and types of primary rock. So first of all, obviously, if you have to start in the intro part, you can try to explain that what do you understand by the primary rocks. So simple definition of primary rocks can be given, and that is why this is something you can write, that rocks that are forming due to solidification of the magma or lava that rises above the earth's surface are called as primary rock. For example, we have igneous rock is also one name given to them, and such examples you can write like granite, gabbro, basalt are some examples of this kind of igneous rock. Once you have written the definition, then you can come to the main body of the answer where you have to talk about the characteristics of the primary rock. So here we can see the major characteristic that we can mention here is, first of all, the primary rocks are unfossiliferous in nature. That means we will not find any kind of fossil in the primary rock. The reason is very simple, because the temperature at which the primary rocks are forming are very high, and that is why all the fossil or also the material is coming from inside the earth. So the fossil is not observed there. Fossil you will find in the sedimentary rock, where you have accumulation of sediment and the dead remnants of plants and animals keep on getting preserved within the sedimentary rock layer. The second is that these rocks are devoid of layer. The layers are not forming here because these rocks are forming at very high temperature and pressure, and that is why we have only a single layer of the rock. Third is, since the temperature at is very higher, more than 800 to 10,000 to 1000 degrees Celsius temperature at which the rock are forming, so the materials start to crystallize, and that is why you can find crystals in these particular rock. For example, we have the old rocks of Great Indian Peninsula. The ancient crystalline rocks are there, from which we have the red soil that forms after the denudation or after the erosion. Fourth, we can talk about the texture, that is the appearance of these rocks. So these are having fine grained or glassy texture. Glassy texture is basically because of presence of high amount of silica in these particular rocks. Fourth, the color can be light or dark color. It ranges from grayish to dark blackish in color. Composition wise, they can be made up of several minerals. However, the major mineral, as you just discussed, is the siliceous in nature, or silica is present in high quantity. If we talk about the other mineral that can be present here is we have the major mineral that is present here is silica. The last point we can write about is the hardness of the rock. So these rocks are very resistant to erosion. They are hard layered rocks and also are impervious in nature. Impervious means there is no space, there is no pores in this rock, and that is why even if rainfall happens, water is not able to percolate and permeate downward in the rock, and that is why here we have problem of water deficiency wherever we have such kind of rocks in the world, including India. Apart from that, in conclusion, we can write about the rocks. Basically, three types of rock we have: intrusive igneous rocks, sedimentary rocks, and the metamorphic rocks. And that should be the end of this particular answer. Since this is only a 10-mark question, you do not have to write a lot. You have to make sure that you write the valid points. And obviously, since it is a geography answer, you are expected to draw a map. So in a map, what you can draw, you can simply draw a map of India. And on this particular map of India, you can try to represent the area where you can find the primary rocks. So obviously one will have the whole peninsular plateau, largely the Deccan plateau and the ancient crystalline rocks that we find here. And apart from that, we have the Meghalaya plateau also where you can find the primary rocks. So these two areas you can represent on the map of India. The second question again is something that is current affair based because cyclone topic keeps in coming in news every now and then. As we know, the eastern coast of India and to some extent the western coast of India are affected by cyclone every year. We have two cyclonic season. One is April, May, and other is the month of September, October. So the question is simple. They have asked that discuss the meaning of the different kind of warming which is color coded in nature given by the Indian Meteorological Department, and what does it mean. So in introduction part, you can try to explain that from where this warning has come or what is the origin of this kind of warning system. So that is IMD, they use different color codes since year 2006, and this color coding was basically given by the National Disaster Management Authority, NDMA, that was established under the Disaster Management Act of year 2005 after the disastrous tsunami of 2004. So basically, as we can see, there are total 4 types of color coded warning given in the case of imminent cyclone, imminent disaster cyclone. That is, first is green. Green refers to all is well. That means there is no adverse weather condition. People can go on with their life as usual. The second warning is related to the color of yellow. Yellow basically means that be updated. That means there is a possibility some adverse weather condition are can set up in the coming time, and that is why to how people can handle this bad weather in the coming days. For that, they have to be keep updated about this particular scenario. The third warning system or the color coding is orange color, where orange color basically means be prepared. That means there is a warning of extreme damage to communication network, damage to transportation network, which can lead to power cuts, blockage in roadways and railways. And also it is a sign for evacuation from those areas where the cyclone is about to make the landfall. So this is the third warning, color coded warning, meaning be prepared, and the color is orange. The last stage of warning is red color. Red color, as we know, it is generally a symbol of danger. So it says that you have to take action. If the color coded warning, red color code is the warning is given the red color code by the IMD, that means you have to take the action, and this is the highest level of warning when there is a threat to life with the worst weather condition. If the intensity of cyclone, if the wind speed in the cyclone, the amount of rainfall in the cyclone is so high that it can cause damage to the life, can cause human casualty, in that case the red color coded warning is issued. So that should be the main content of your answer. The last conclusion you can write about different stages are there that has been given by IMD as far as cyclone is concerned. The first stage is pre-cyclone watch, that is issued 72 hours in advance. The second stone is cyclone alert, that is issued in 48 hours in advance. Third stage is cyclone warning, issued 24 hours in advance. And the last stage or the fourth stage is the post landfall outlook, that is issued at least 12 hours in advance of the expected time of landfall. Landfall basically refers to a term when the cyclone, as you know, the tropical cyclones, they are generating only in the oceanic areas, only in the sea areas, and once they develop in the sea areas, due to the movement of the easterly winds, especially if you look at, this is a map of India, and the cyclones that are developing over Bay of Bengal, and as we know, the planetary winds that is moving in this area is the trade winds. So trade winds bring this cyclone from sea toward the land. So landfall basically refers to the incidents when the cyclone first arrives to the land surface or to the coastal land areas. So this is what your conclusion should look like. Apart from that, in alternative, you can also try to give the names of the recent cyclone that India has witnessed, and that should also be one form of conclusion. So that is all about the second question, or question number 5th as per the question paper. That is also a 10-mark question. Moving forward, again we have another 10-mark question. We have to write under 150 word, is about discuss the natural resource potential of the Deccan Tract. So in introduction, simply you can try to explain two types of introduction is possible here. First, you can draw the map of India, and on the map of India you can first show that what region of India is known as Deccan Plateau or Deccan Tract region. Also, you can briefly write about that how this Deccan Tract or Deccan Plateau have formed. Other way how you can start this answer is by defining what do you understand by the term natural resources, and then you can go on talk about natural resources potential. So after this introduction, drawing a map of India showing Deccan Tract, we can talk about the main theme, that is the resource potential of Deccan Tract. So several resources, natural resources are there which can be potentially trapped, potentially we can say extracted in the coming future. The first and the foremost is the oil and natural gas. So as per the National Geophysical Research Institute, there is not only oil and natural gas reserve, but also there is a reserve of shale gas which can be extracted in future. Apart from that, we have the soil sample collected from the Telangana and the nearby areas. They also show the potentiality of oil and natural gas reserves. Then we have these oil reserves are expected to be found in the Mesozoic Gondwana sediment, which are up to a thickness of 3 kilometers. Not only the oil and gas, we also have huge potential from uranium, because India is trying to increase its nuclear energy generation potential, nuclear energy generation amount of nuclear energy generation. So uranium is also very, very important. It also has been found in the Deccan Tract in the Lameta crystalline basement contact zone. Apart from that, we know that there is a groundwater resource potential as well. Though the Deccan Plateau is made up of impervious rock, there is an accumulation of groundwater in the syncline areas. If we talk about what is syncline, the whole structure of the plateau is like this, where the upward lifted part is called as anticline, while the downward compressed part or depressed part is called as syncline. So the older rocks of this Deccan Plateau have a syncline for the water, and as per the current announcement by the Ministry of Water Resources, the Jal Jeevan Mission is going to be initiated to extract the groundwater from these areas, and Maharashtra is going to the first state where such program will be commissioned. So this will be the main structure of your answer as far as the Deccan resource potential is concerned. Then the next question is question number 7, where it has been directly asked to examine the potential of wind energy in India and explain the reason for its limited spread. So again, here you can talk about the National Wind Mission of India, and also you can talk about regards to the intentional nationally determined contribution that has been given by India as per the COP15 summit in the Paris Agreement that we know all about. So you can start from there as an introduction, that increasing the wind energy or generation of wind energy in India is as per the line of our INDC. Then you can talk about the India's potential in wind energy generation. So as per the National Institute of Wind Energy, the total estimate of wind energy potential is about 302 gigawatt at a hub height of 100 meters above the ground. Hub height refers to the height at which the fans of these wind energy plants are fixed and at the height at which they rotate. Then overall, we can have two types of generation of wind energy. One is onshore wind farms that is located on the land areas, and other is the offshore wind farm that is located in the shallow water bodies. Basically, onshore and offshore refers to the movement of wind. The wind that is moving from land to the sea are called as offshore wind, while the wind that is moving from sea to land are called as onshore wind. So depending on that, we have two types of wind energy plants. India can also generate around 127 gigawatt of offshore wind energy because it has a very, very long coastline right from Gujarat all the way up to West Bengal, is overall expanding to a length of 7,600 kilometers. Not only that, the global onshore wind power farms are also expected to grow by more than 60 gigawatt in 2019, and global capacity from onshore wind energy application is projected to reach nearly 750 gigawatt by year 2022, that is the current year. Now, the second part of question is obviously that what is the regions for the limited spatial spread of the wind energy generation. So we have several reasons. The first reason is obviously the concentration is in few pockets in India, especially such as Tamil Nadu and Gujarat. Second, the problem is with regard to funding. The wind energy generators are not able to generate funding that is required for their functioning. The capital is low because investors are shy from investing in this wind energy plant. The one reason is because also the cost of energy generation from wind is much more higher as compared to the other traditional sources. Third is there is challenge of land acquisition because wind energy plant or turbines require huge amount of land area to generate 1 unit megawatt of energy as compared to the traditional sources. We have the wind energy policy that has been unveiled by the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy that also has come at a much more delayed time period. Then we have vulnerabilities in the coastal area. We have just discussed few minutes back that the whole coast of India, including the eastern coast as well as western coast, are vulnerable to cyclones, are vulnerable to different kind of storms, and that is why there is a threat to the damage to the wind energy plants or wind farms. Then insurance penetration is also low, and the insurance premium is quite high. Obviously, this is related to point number second because we have funding challenges and the capital investment is relatively lesser in these areas. Then changing weather patterns because India is lying in a tropical country where there is very fast fluctuation in both temperature and rainfall that also creates another added challenge to the wind energy generation. And last, obviously, the higher cost and the challenges in the connectivity or grid connectivity. Then the next question that has been asked that is of 15-mark question where you have to write it. The answer should be within 250 words. That is, what are the forces that influence ocean currents? Describe their role in the fishing industry world. This is also something a question that has been repeated every now and then. Out of all the topics in oceanography, ocean current is the most important one. And if you look at in year 2018, year 2017, 16, almost all the 3 years we have the question that is similar kind of question that has been asked. So obviously in introduction part of this particular question, first we have to define that what do you understand by the term ocean current. So you can write that it is a continuous, predictable, a single directional movement of seawater driven by gravity, wind, and water density. Ocean water basically moves in two directions, the horizontal direction and the vertical direction. The horizontal movement are called as current, while the vertical movement are called as upwelling or downwelling. Apart from that, on a map of world, you can also try to chart out the important ocean currents, the warm ocean currents and cold ocean current in all the three oceans, that is Atlantic, Pacific, and the Indian Ocean. Once you complete that, then you can try to explain the role of this ocean current in the, first of all, about the factors that influences the ocean current. So forces, four major forces are there. First is the rotation of the earth. As you know that earth is rotating on its axis from west to east, so as the earth rotates and the water in the ocean is resting over the earth, obviously because of the force of inertia, the water also start to rotate, giving rise to the ocean currents, especially in the equatorial region. Second is the temperature difference. As you know, the temperature of some places, like for example equatorial region, is higher while temperature of some places such as polar region is lower. So due to this temperature difference, the area where temperature is warmer, temperature is higher, water becomes warm. As the water becomes warm, it expands, and as it expands it becomes lighter, and as the water becomes lighter it rises up on the surface. On the other hand, in the polar areas where the water temperature is very cold, water becomes denser, and as the water becomes denser it becomes heavier and start to sink toward the bottom. So near the equatorial area we have upward movement of the water, near the polar areas we have downward movement of water, and thus this expanded water, this light water, gradually on the surface start to move toward the polar areas, while the heavy water start to move toward equator from the polar areas. So this is how the temperature difference can give rise to the ocean current. Apart from that, the third important point is the salinity difference. Salinity is defined as the total amount or grams of salt present in per 1,000 grams of the water. So higher the salt content, higher the salinity, and higher the salinity, we can understand higher will be the density of the water. So again, same thing, as the area which is having higher salinity, water is denser, and as the water is denser, it sinks toward the bottom, and the area where salinity is lower, the density is less, and then water rises up near the surface, and that is how we also have a circulation that establishes between two areas, one having low salinity, one having higher salinity. The best example of these can be seen between the Mediterranean Sea and the Atlantic Ocean. The Mediterranean Sea, which is bounded by land from all the sides, there is a high rate of evaporation and there is less influx of fresh water, has high salinity. While the Atlantic Ocean, since it is able to mix both from Arctic and Antarctic region, it is having lower salinity. And that is why we have ocean current that start to develop between the Mediterranean Sea and Atlantic Ocean. On the surface, water moves from Atlantic to Mediterranean through the Strait of Gibraltar, while below the surface, it moves in the opposite direction. So both the temperature differences and salinity difference basically causes the density difference, and it is the density difference that is driving the ocean current in different regions of the world. Then the last point which we have discussed about it, how the ocean current influences the fishing industry of the world. So there are several ways how ocean current influences it. The first important way is that the ocean current is basically nothing but a circulation of oceanic water from one area to the other area. So as the oceanic water circulates, it also brings along with itself several foods, nutrients, and also is able to distribute larvae and reproductive cell of the fishes, and that is how they influence the fishes and their population. The second, they are also helpful in migration of various species from one region to the other region. Third, by the mixing of warm ocean current with cold ocean current, such as near the Newfoundland region of Canada, near the coastline of Japan, as well as near the Bahia Blanca region of Argentina in South Atlantic. These are the regions where the warm ocean current is mixing with the cold ocean current. So due to the mixing of these two different kind of ocean current, it creates favorable ground for the fishes because it replenishes the oxygen and also promote the formation of planktons. So that is why the density of fishes or the population of fishes is quite higher in these areas, and that is the reason you can see the commercial fishing are very well developed near the Newfoundland region of Canada as well as near the Japanese harbor. Third, as we have discussed, there is also a vertical movement of water that occurs. The upward movement of water is called as upwelling, while the downward movement of water is called as downwelling. So areas where upwelling is happening, there the upwelling currents bring cold, nutrient-rich waters from the bottom or below the surface of the sea, and that is why it also supports many fishes. So these are the ways how the ocean current plays a very important role in the fishing industry of the world. This should have been the main content of your answer. Then coming to the 15th number question, which is again a 15-mark question, which you have to write within 250 words. Here you have to basically describe the distribution of rubber producing countries, and after that you have to indicate the major environmental issues that is being faced by them. So on the map of world, you can simply draw the outline of the world map, and on that you can say to the areas the countries representing representing the major rubber growing regions. So as we can see, we have India. India is basically the part of southern India, that is Kerala is the richest rubber producing state. Apart from that, we can see the part of Indonesia, Malaysia, China. Then we have some countries in the equatorial region of Africa, and then we have Brazil in South America. These are the major rubber producing regions of the world. Once we have demarcated this on the map, then we have to move further and indicate the major environmental issues faced by the rubber industry. So basically, the major environmental issues being faced by these industries is, first of all, obviously, since we know that natural rubber is a plantation crop, and to put a plantation of rubber, you have to remove the trees or forest that is naturally occurring in those areas. So it causes deforestation, and this we can link with the various environmental issues that we can face by the process of deforestation. Second, the rubber industry consumes huge amount of water and energy, and that is why it reduces the groundwater potential. It exacerbates the groundwater or the water crisis in different regions of the world, and also the wastewater that is generated is also a major issue, because where we can remove the wastewater, as it can pollute the groundwater resources further. Then also rubber industry is known for using a large amount of chemical to modify the properties and characteristics of rubber, such as vulcanization is the one such process. So these processes also causes serious environmental impact in the neighboring water bodies where the rubber industry has been situated. Apart from that, the massive amount of waste and effluent being generated by rubber industry can lead to water pollution, can lead to soil pollution, and these chemicals gradually can become part of the food chain and can also cause severe health issues in the humans as well as the animals as well. Fourth, as you know, that rubber industry or rubber plantation can cause deforestation, and deforestation can cause loss of biodiversity, as many animals, many bird species, many microorganisms that are living in those areas, they will have to migrate and they can further die. The best example, as we can see in the large swaths of Indonesian rainforest, the rainforests are being continuously cut to bring it under the rubber plantation or to bring it under agriculture, that has caused loss of life to the orangutan, which is a flagship species belonging to the Indonesian region. Then apart from that, it also impacts the natural vegetation as well as the soil quality of the area where rubber is growing. For example, in Kerala, rubber plantation have replaced natural vegetation, and studies linked to this have shown that biodiversity has been reduced, river flow has underwent significant changes, and the soil nutrients have also underwent significant changes, that is in long term is going to affect the farming potential of that particular region. So this is overall the major environmental issues being faced by the rubber industry. So in the end, you should conclude that we should try to shift towards synthetic rubber or we can also give alternative that what more methods can be adopted so that the environmental issues faced by rubber industries and the environmental challenges faced by rubber industry can be mitigated. So the way forward could be your general conclusion. That should be the end of this particular answer. The question number 16, again a 15-mark question, is again a direct question that has been asked, which we can say is a current affairs oriented question, because we have a lot of issues going on in different states of the world. For example, a few years back, in the Suez Canal, one of the most important strait that is connecting different parts of the world, we have a ship that got stuck. Apart from that, recently we have a war-like situation or conflict-like situation that was developing in the Taiwan Strait. We also have China-India tussle that focuses or that paid attention on the Strait of Malacca. So because of these varied geopolitical regions, this question has been asked, and the question is straightforward, mentioning the significance of strait in isthmus in international trade. So basically, you can start this question by introducing what do you understand by the term strait and what do you understand by isthmus. So strait is nothing but a navigable waterway, a narrow waterway that connects two large water bodies. For example, we have Park Strait that connects Arabian Sea on the west, Bay of Bengal in the east. Similarly, we have Strait of Gibraltar that connect Mediterranean Sea in the east and Atlantic Ocean in the west. Similarly, we have Strait of Malacca that connects Bay of Bengal with the South China Sea. So several such straits we can represent on the world map as well. On the other hand, isthmus is just reverse of the strait. While strait connects water bodies, isthmus is a thin strip of land that connects two large areas of land. And the best example of isthmus we can see is in the South America, in the country of Panama, which is connecting the North American continent with the South American continent. On the other hand, if you come to the Asia, we also have isthmus of Kra that is connecting the Malaysian peninsula with the thin Gulf, with this Thailand region. So both, once we define both these terms, strait and isthmus, then we can on the map of world can show important or major isthmuses and strait, and after that, we can go on discussing about the importance in international trade. So what can be the major basic point you can write is about the strait and isthmus. So first of all, these act as a natural site for ports, trade routes and canal, and they link the terrestrial trade routes with the aquatic trade routes or marine trade. Second, these also act as a key site for communication and cultural exchanges as well as military outposts. As we can see in the case of India itself, we have a lot of military outposts situated near the coastal areas. And similarly, we have a lot of military outposts, as you can see, between China and Taiwan that is situated in Taiwan Strait. Then also these strait and isthmus act as a fast communicating route located at strategic positions of the world. For example, if you can understand with one example is the Isthmus of Panama. So before Isthmus of Panama, the distance between South America and North America were quite large. Similarly, we talk about the Suez Canal. So before opening of Suez Canal, the whole trade route from Europe to Asia passes by a whole of Africa. So it was thousands and thousand kilometer, much more larger distance need to be covered. So due to development of this strait and isthmuses, the communication route have been reduced, or the communicating distances, transportation distances between two different parts of the world has been significantly reduced. That leads to reduction in the cost, that leads to saving in the time as well. Apart from that, there are several resources that you can find in the strait areas, such as minerals, oils, and gas. Recently, Turkey has found gas around the Black Sea region, natural gases in Black Sea regions. Apart from that, it also has a very important economic aspect because countries in charge of strait can levy high charges for international ships to allow them to transit through the strait. Apart from that, natural ocean water provide a smooth roadways which does not require any kind of maintenance, and that is why the water transportation is one of the cheapest form of transportation if you compare with the roadways, railways or airway. And thus it provides well connectivity and establish the connection between developed and developing nations such as Malacca Strait and Kra Isthmus. So that should have been the major content of your answer, that is about the significance of strait and isthmus in international trade. The last question that is related to geography which has been asked is again a question from climatology topic. It is also a 15-mark questions and you have to write within 250 words. The question is related to the troposphere. That troposphere is a very significant atmospheric layer that determines weather processes. So give the region. Now the standard way of approaching this question is, first of all, in introduction you have to draw the map of different layers of the atmosphere, and in that particular layer you can basically represent that which layer is troposphere, what is the height of troposphere, how the temperature changes in atmosphere, and after that you can go and discuss about the how troposphere determines weather processes. So as you can see from this map here, troposphere is a layer that is the first layer of the atmosphere extending up to height of 15 kilometer, and it is in this layer that temperature decreases with increase in height from almost 20 degrees Celsius at the surface to almost minus 60 degrees Celsius at the top of troposphere. So this is something you could have included in the introduction part of your answer. As far as the main content is concerned, what you can write is, first of all, we can write is that it is in the tropospheric layer that most of the processes related to the convection and process related to advection occurs. Convection refers to the vertical movement of the wind, while advection refers to the horizontal movement of wind. Second, we can write it is because of these reasons we also have high rate of evaporation that we observe in the tropospheric layer. So obviously, if there is a high rate of evaporation, what will happen? All the water molecules, water vapor that are evaporating, they will go higher up in the atmosphere. And as they go higher up, what will happen? There will be condensation of this water vapor, and due to condensation, we have cloud formation, and due to cloud formation, we have the rainfall. So this we also can write in the second point, that how troposphere plays a very important role in determining weather processes. Third point we can write about is all the pollutant that is being generated by us on the earth surface, either by industries, either by vehicles, all the greenhouse gases that we're generating such as CO2, methane, these all go up and remain within the zones of the troposphere itself. So that is also how it affects the weather processes. For example, the high concentration of chemicals such as ozone and other such chemicals such as nitrate or nitrogen oxides, they can create smog, photochemical smog, that is made up of ozone, peroxyacetyl nitrate, and other volatile organic compounds. So that also is another way how the weather is affected by the troposphere. Fourth point we can write about is that since troposphere is area where most or 90% of your clouds are present, it also basically is affecting your energy distribution that is happening near the layers of the earth. So as the solar energy is able to enter in the troposphere, it first of all reaches the earth's surface, and then after it is reflected, and after reflection what happens, it gets absorbed within the tropospheric layer, tropospheric clouds, and that creates a greenhouse gas effect that keeps the tropospheric layer warmer and maintains the overall temperature of the earth's surface. Next point what we can mention is the significance of troposphere, that it is within the troposphere we also see a phenomenon that is the temperature inversion. Temperature inversion occurs when instead of decrease in temperature with height in troposphere, we find a temperature to be increasing with height, and this causes stable weather condition at the ground surface where there is no rainfall, the clouds are not present in the atmosphere, and this causes formation of fog as well as frost. So this is also something that is related with the troposphere. So by giving these examples, we can show that how troposphere is a very significant atmospheric layer and it determines various different kind of weather processes. Apart from that, we have the thunderstorms, we have tornadoes, we have cyclones, we have hurricanes. All these are developing within the tropospheric layer itself. So this is something that you could have written in this particular answer. So that was all about the discussion regarding geography. What are the questions that have been asked in this particular year? What are the possible answers, possible points you could have included in the answer? And what should have been the ideal structure for your answer? So I hope it will be able to help you in your examination next year. That is all for this particular video. Thank you very much.